I never thought I'd share this story, but here I am. That night changed everything. My perfect marriage, my dreams, my entire world, shattered with a single slap. But looking back now, being thrown to the floor of that restaurant was the wake-up call I needed. I'm Jessica, a tech product manager from Seattle, and this is how I turned the worst moment of my life into my greatest triumph. Inside was an inspiration for me. You know those Instagram perfect marriages? That was us. 3 years of what seemed like pure bliss, weekend brunches, matching Christmas sweaters, and vacation photos that made everyone jealous. Mark was the charming software engineer who swept me off my feet, and I was the ambitious product manager climbing the corporate ladder. We were that couple everyone wanted to be. I remember staring at myself in the mirror that evening, adjusting my new blue dress, the one I'd bought specially for our anniversary dinner. The promotion letter was in my purse, and I couldn't stop smiling. Senior product manager at 28. I'd worked so hard for this, staying late, leading cross-disciplinary teams, and proving myself in a male-dominated industry. Mark had always been my biggest cheerleader, or at least that's what I thought. Our families were close, maybe too close. Mark's parents lived just 15 minutes away, and his mother, Patricia, was always around. "Just checking on my babies," she'd say, dropping by unannounced with homemade casseroles and plenty of opinions. She'd constantly hint about grandchildren, sending me articles about freezing eggs and the risks of waiting too long. I'd laugh it off, but deep down, the pressure was building. That evening, everything looked perfect on the surface. The restaurant was beautiful, the soft jazz playing, candlelight flickering, and the Seattle skyline twinkling through floor-to-ceiling windows. Mark looked handsome in his navy suit, and Patricia was dressed elegantly in her pearl necklace, the one she wore to all important family occasions. The waiter had just poured our wine, and everyone was smiling. It felt like the perfect moment to share my news. "I have something exciting to tell you both," I said, my heart racing with anticipation. I pulled out the promotion letter, my hands trembling slightly. "I've been promoted to senior product manager." The words hung in the air like smoke, and that's when I saw it. The flash of anger in Patricia's eyes, the way Mark's smile tightened at the corners. "Another promotion?" Patricia's voice was sharp, cutting through the ambient restaurant noise. "I thought you were finally going to tell us you're expecting." She set down her wine glass with a little too much force. "Mark needs a wife, not a competitor." I looked at Mark, waiting for him to defend me, to share my joy like he always had before, but he just sat there, his jaw clenched, staring at his plate. The silence stretched between us like a chasm, filled with years of unspoken expectations and growing resentment. "I thought you'd be happy for me," I said softly, my voice barely a whisper. "This doesn't change our plans for a family. It just means you're choosing your career over my son, over our family," Patricia interrupted. "Over the grandchildren. You're denying us. Is that what marriage means to you, Jessica?" My chest tightened as I watched Mark's expression darken. The man I loved, my partner of 5 years, was transforming before my eyes. When he finally spoke, his voice was cold, distant, like a stranger's. "Mom's right, Jess. We've talked about starting a family. This promotion, it's just another excuse to delay. Another way to put your ambitions before us." He reached for his wine glass, his knuckles white with tension. "Before us?" I felt heat rising in my cheeks. "I thought we were a team. I thought you supported my dreams too." My voice cracked slightly, but I held my ground. "This promotion means we'll be more financially stable when we do start a family. I don't understand why." What happened next plays in slow motion in my memories. Mark's chair scraped against the floor as he stood up, the flash of his hand, the sharp crack of the slap, the shocked gasps from nearby diners. My body hit the floor, my cheek burning, my perfect world shattering like fine china. But what happened after that? That's the story that needs to be told. Because sometimes, hitting rock bottom is exactly what you need to finally spread your wings and soar. I lay there on the restaurant floor, my mind struggling to process what had just happened. The cold marble against my cheek, the ringing in my ears, the deafening silence that had fallen over the restaurant. It all felt surreal, like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. But this was real, too real. Through my tears, I could see other diners frozen mid-bite, their faces a mix of horror and pity. A young waitress rushed forward with a glass of water, her hands shaking almost as much as mine. And Patricia? She just sat there, adjusting her pearl necklace, as if her son hadn't just assaulted me in public. "Ma'am, should we call the police?" The restaurant manager's voice seemed to come from far away. I pushed myself up from the floor. My designer dress, the one I'd chosen so carefully for this special night, now crumpled and stained. My face burned, not just from the slap, but from the humiliation. "Jessica, you're being dramatic. Sit down and let's discuss this like adults," Patricia hissed, reaching for my arm. I jerked away from her touch as if it would burn me. Mark stood there, his face a storm of emotions. Anger, shock, and something else. Was it guilt? I didn't stay to find out. "Don't follow me," I managed to say, my voice stronger than I felt. Grabbing my purse, I walked out of that restaurant with whatever dignity I had left. The valet took one look at my tear-stained face and rushed to get my car without the ticket. The drive home was a blur. Seattle's rainy streets reflected the neon signs like watercolors, matching the chaos in my mind. I called my best friend Rachel on the car's Bluetooth. "Rach, can you come over? I need you." My voice cracked, but I managed to explain what happened. "Don't move. I'm on my way with ice cream and wine," she said, no questions asked. This is what real support sounds like, I thought bitterly. Back at our apartment, no, his apartment now, I started throwing things into a suitcase. Designer clothes we'd bought together, photos from happier times, the laptop with all my work files. My hands were on autopilot while my mind raced. 3 years of marriage, 5 years together, all ending with a slap that seemed to echo through my entire body. Rachel arrived just as I was zipping up the suitcase. One look at my face, now sporting an angry red mark, and she wrapped me in a fierce hug. "You're staying with me," she said. It wasn't a question. I should have said something months ago when he started trying to control your work hours. As we drove to her place, my phone buzzed continuously, messages from Mark. "Baby, I'm so sorry. Please, come home. We can work this out. You know how Mom gets, I was just stressed. Don't throw away our marriage." Each message made me feel sick. This wasn't love. This wasn't what I deserved. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'd misunderstood his intent. That night, curled up on Rachel's couch with a bag of frozen peas against my cheek, I made a decision. I wouldn't be another statistic, another woman who should have seen the signs. I was a senior product manager who led teams and handled million-dollar projects. I could handle this too. The next morning, I walked into my office with my head held high, concealer covering the bruise that had bloomed overnight. I went straight to HR. "I need to document something," I said, my voice steady. "And I need to make sure my husband can't access this building." Sarah, the HR director, listened without judgment, took photos of my face, and immediately arranged for new security protocols. "We've got your back, Jessica," she said, sliding over a list of resources, lawyers, counselors, support groups, and congratulations on the promotion. You earned it. I hadn't cried since leaving the restaurant, but her simple acknowledgement of my achievement, the one that should have been celebrated, broke something open inside me. But these weren't tears of sadness or fear. They were tears of determination. That evening, I opened my laptop and started a new document, my freedom plan. First item, separate bank account. Second, restraining order. Third, find an apartment. Fourth, therapy. The list grew as my confidence returned. Mark's messages had evolved from apologies to threats. "You're ruining our family. Think about what people will say. Your career won't keep you warm at night." Each message strengthened my resolve. I looked at myself in Rachel's bathroom mirror, gently touching the bruise that was now turning purple. "You are not a victim," I whispered to my reflection. "You are a survivor, and this is just the beginning of your story." Little did I know then just how right I was. Because sometimes, the universe has a way of turning your worst moments into your greatest opportunities. And my opportunity? It was just around the corner, waiting to transform my pain into purpose. They say success is the best revenge, but I wasn't interested in revenge. I wanted something more powerful. I wanted to thrive. The next few weeks became a blur of action and change, each step taking me further from that devastating night and closer to the woman I was meant to be. My first power move? walking into that big product launch meeting like nothing had happened. 50 pairs of eyes watched me present our new strategy, and not one of them saw a victim. They saw a leader. My voice didn't shake once as I outlined our roadmap. The bruise had faded, but my determination had only grown stronger. And so, outstanding presentation, Jessica, my CEO said afterward, pulling me aside. I heard about your situation. Just know that we're doubling down on our faith in you. We'd like you to lead our Women in Tech initiative. I almost dropped my laptop. This was exactly the kind of opportunity I'd always dreamed of but had been too afraid to pursue. Funny how losing everything makes you fearless. My temporary stay at Rachel's turned into apartment hunting. I found a small but bright studio overlooking the city. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The first night there, I sat on my new IKEA couch, which I assembled myself, thank you very much, eating takeout Chinese food, when my phone buzzed. It was a message from a junior product manager. Your presentation today changed my life. I'm also in an abusive relationship, and seeing you stand there, so strong. Can we talk? That message hit me like a ton of bricks. I wasn't just changing my life, I could help change others. The next day, I started a private Slack channel called Tech Women Rising. Within a week, we had 30 members. Within a month, over 100. Meanwhile, the divorce proceedings began. Mark's attempts to manipulate me through mutual friends and family backfired as I stood my ground. You don't understand, he told our mediator. She's throwing away everything for her career. I smiled politely and let my lawyer do the talking. But the real transformation wasn't happening in conference rooms or courtrooms. It was happening within me. Every Monday and Wednesday I took self-defense classes. Every Thursday I met with my therapist, Dr. Chen. You're not just surviving, she told me. You're revolutionizing your life. The Women in Tech initiative took off like a rocket. We organized monthly workshops, bringing in speakers who shared stories of resilience and success. I found myself sharing my story too, first with small groups, then at larger events. Success isn't about having a perfect life, I told a crowd at our first major conference. It's about having the courage to rebuild when life falls apart. The standing ovation wasn't for my words. It was for every woman who'd ever had to choose between her dreams and someone else's expectations. My apartment slowly became a home. I painted one wall deep blue, something Mark would have hated. I bought plants and learned to keep them alive, started cooking for myself instead of waiting for Patricia's passive-aggressive casseroles. Small victories, but they felt massive. 6 months after that fateful dinner, I was asked to give a keynote speech at the Seattle Tech Summit. As I walked onto that stage, wearing a new blue dress, yes, blue, I was reclaiming everything. I saw Patricia in the audience. She'd probably expected to see me broken. Instead, she saw me soaring. 3 months ago, I was knocked down, I began, looking directly at her. But being on the ground showed me something important. The only way forward was up, and up is exactly where I decided to go. The response was overwhelming. Women lined up afterward to share their stories, thank me, to join our growing community. That's when I realized this wasn't just about my healing anymore. It had become a movement, but the biggest surprise was still to come. As I was leaving the summit, a woman approached me, tall, confident, with kind eyes. I'm Linda Chen from Microsoft's Global Innovation Team, she said. We need someone like you, someone who not only builds products but builds people up. Would you be interested in joining us? Standing there, resume requests in one hand and speaking invitations in the other, I thought about that night on the restaurant floor, how I'd felt so small, so powerless. If only I could go back and tell that version of me, hold on, girl. Your life is about to become bigger than you ever imagined. Because sometimes, rock bottom isn't an ending, it's a launch pad. 1 year later, I'm standing in my corner office at Microsoft, looking out at the Seattle skyline. The same skyline I saw through my tears that night, but now it represents something different. Possibility, strength, and most importantly, freedom. The ring mark on my finger has long faded, replaced by a beautiful bracelet I bought myself to celebrate my first major product launch at Microsoft. It's inscribed with the words, "Rock bottom was the foundation." Every time I look at it, I'm reminded of how far I've come. Yesterday, I ran into Mark at a local coffee shop. A year ago, this would have sent me into a panic. Instead, I felt nothing. No fear, no anger, just peaceful indifference. He looked small somehow. Nothing like the giant who had once towered over me on that restaurant floor. I ordered my latte, smiled politely, and walked out. That's what real healing looks like. Our Tech Women Rising community has grown to over 5,000 members across the country. We've helped countless women leave abusive situations, find new jobs, and rebuild their lives. Every Tuesday night, I mentor 3 women who are just starting their journey. When they ask me how I did it, I tell them the truth, one brave decision at a time. The Microsoft Global Innovation Team isn't just my job anymore. It's my platform for change. We've implemented new workplace safety protocols, created support networks for employees in crisis, and launched a scholarship program for survivors of domestic violence pursuing careers in tech. Last month, I gave a TED Talk titled From Floor to Flight: How Rock Bottom Built My Wings. As I walked onto that red circle, wearing a power suit that made me feel invincible, I saw Patricia in the audience again. But this time, I wasn't nervous. I wasn't angry. I was grateful. "Thank you," I said into the microphone, looking directly at her. "To everyone who tried to clip my wings. You taught me how to build stronger ones." The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes, but the real victory wasn't the applause. It was the flood of messages that came after. "You gave me the courage to leave. I start my new job tomorrow. I finally filed for divorce. I chose me. My new apartment has a wall of photos. Not of a perfect-looking marriage, but of real moments of joy. I am at the summit of Mount Rainier. Yes, I am a hiker now. I am speaking at conferences. I am laughing with my support group. I am having dinner with Rachel, who stood by me through it all. These pictures tell the story, not of what I lost, but of what I found, myself." Last week, a young product manager asked me if I regretted that night at the restaurant. I thought carefully before answering. "I regret that anyone has to experience violence," I said. "But I don't regret what came after. Sometimes the worst moments of our lives become our greatest teachers." So here I am, sharing my story not because I want sympathy, but because I want you to know something important. That moment when you're on the floor, literally or metaphorically, isn't the end of your story. It might just be the beginning. You might be watching this from your rock bottom. Maybe you're scared, hurt, or feeling trapped. I want you to know something. You are stronger than you think. Your dreams matter. Your safety matters. Your safety matters. You matter. Remember, success isn't about never falling. It's about how you rise, what you build, and who you lift along the way. My name is Jessica, and this isn't a story about being knocked down. It's a story about soaring. And if you're wondering what happened to that blue dress from our anniversary night, I donated it along with a business suit to a women's shelter. Because sometimes, another woman needs to be reminded that she too can rise from the floor and touch the sky. Sometimes, everything is made of darkness, and everything can be dark. This isn't the end of my story. It's just the beginning, because every time another woman stands up, speaks out, and reclaims her power, our collective story grows stronger.